Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the HROnboard Clinkers release webinar. Clinkers is the latest release that we've put out, so we're going to cover some of the items today that were in it. So, presenting, myself, Michael Speck, head of the customer success team here. I'll be leading us through the webinar, and with me is Michelle Clancy.
Hey everybody.
Many of you will know Michelle and deal with Michelle often. She's our customer success manager. So today's agenda, it's fairly short and sweet. We'll go through what's new. I'll be handing over to Michelle to take us through some of the new stuff. We'll then be going through tips and tricks sort of section. We'll be talking about user management, loading your own contracts. Then we'll be briefly touching on what's next, what will be in our next release. We'll be talking about Christmas, and then we'll be opening it up for Q&A. So I'll hand over to Michelle to sort of talk you through our new release process.
Good afternoon, everybody. So we'll kickstart and have a chat about our new release process. So our long-standing customers would know that our previous release process was based on our dev team working hard across a quarter. We would bundle up all of the features together that made the release after testing, etc. And then we would push all of that to your production environments. We've recently made a change to the way we manage this because we really want to ensure that you're getting as many new features into your production environment as soon as we possibly can. So we've introduced an improved, more agile way that will allow us to release updates on a 4-week cycle. So going from really what was 4 updates a year to 12, it's really exciting and can only be a good thing for all of our customers. And it's also going to mean that your environments will be continually enhanced and nurtured with the very latest from HROnboard. And it's also worth noting that some of these features, they'll be disabled upon release, and you'll see this with some of the features in our Clinkers release. And there'll be times that you'll need to opt into these updates. So you'll need to keep a keen eye on what is included in each release. Now, the way we'll be communicating trial and production outages won't change. This will still be using our HROnboard status alerts, and I sign these up. I sign you up to these status alerts once you go live. We'll also include the release notes in these alerts, and also in our LinkedIn HROnboard user group. So please ensure you're registered and signed up to these avenues of communication, and definitely let me know if I can help you with this, as it's really important to stay informed. Together with all of this, we're also going to do a quarterly webinar wrap-up, much like today, and that will take you through what we've been up to in the previous 3 months, which is all very exciting stuff.
Just one more thing to add to that. All of the monthly releases will still stay with a lolly-themed name. So we're going from 4 lollies a year to 12 lollies, which means more lollies in the office, which is a good thing.
More visits to the gym as well, I would suggest too. Okay, moving on. Another new thing that we've implemented is the NPS, or the Net Promoter Score, which some of you might be familiar with. It's really what we're using to measure how engaged back office users are with HROnboard. Some of you might have noticed a little survey pop up once you log in, and it's your response to this is what really drives our NPS rating. We've opened this up to all of our back office users, many of whom aren't our usual contacts, and that's going to enable us to gain as much insight into your perception of HROnboard as we can. There's also an opportunity to provide feedback, and this feedback is what I can use to hassle dev with when they're preparing for a new release. So if you can take the time to provide a bit of feedback with what you want to see in HROnboard, that would be great. So the NPS survey, it literally takes half a minute to respond to, so please keep your responses coming in, and thanks to everyone who's participated so far. Right, moving on into what's new in Clinkers. And I'm really wrapped with Clinkers because it's one of my favourite lollies, except we were talking before the green ones. Not really a fan of the green ones, but anyway, what can you do? So the first thing that was released in Clinkers is our new status, which is withdrawn. We did post this on our LinkedIn user group, so if you missed it, you can check it out. But basically what the withdrawn status it does is it's really a way to accurately depict those instances where an offer's been sent to the new hire, but then it hasn't been accepted. We see many reasons for this, but what's most common is that the candidate has accepted another position. And it's pretty painful. You know, you find the right candidate, you organise the HROnboard offer, and then it just doesn't eventuate. So rather than you having to delete the offer or it stay in a stagnant status that notes that it might still be in the middle of the process, you can still simply mark the offer as withdrawn, and it's a much more accurate way of knowing what's actually happened. So to do this, you simply need to go to the offer file, and in your tools menu there, you just simply select withdraw. Now the next step after that will be a prompt, and that will ask you to note a reason as to why the offer has been withdrawn. And then once that's completed, the status is updated. Okay, so that's a nice new update that you can use. Now I'm going to hand it over to Michael to take you through some more of what's in our Clinkers release.
Thanks, Michelle. Now, we've added a number of features, and I'm going to cover these over the next few slides, and I'll try as best as possible to describe them. They are more complex and more advanced features, and we'll sort of talk through some of the use cases and where they're useful as we go through. So what we've now introduced is this ability to submit a form or a collection of forms. Now, this is one of the challenges that we have right now is when your candidates are going through the process on the candidate portal, they can go backwards and forwards as often as they want. And so from a back office processing point of view, you're unable to start actioning any of that offer or any of that candidate information until they finish the process and you're at that form submitted stage. One of the things that we can do now with this submit feature is you can have a form flagged to be submittable. That then locks the form. So it means that the candidate can't go back and change the answers. And it allows you to start processing back office tasks sooner within your workflow. Now, in addition to this, we've created a concept of collections of forms. So these are multiple screens effectively that can be grouped together to be completed in one go. So you'll see the little image there. We've got 3 security forms, so maybe background or security clearances, where the candidate's gone through, completed the 3 different forms, and then there's the blue button which says submit security forms. What that does is that then submits all of those documents. They are then locked. The candidate can view them, but they can't edit the data. And then that will then allow you, say, to go and start that security clearance process or other types of processes there. Now, the use cases that we're seeing this being used for is pre-employment type checks or security clearances or medical checks. Now, the submits and collection of forms, there is more information on the HUG. Now, at the moment, these are sort of in test mode. They are alive, people can use them, but we're testing them out with some of specific customers to make sure that we get all of the right features in the product to make them usable. The next flow-on feature that's come in is more around back office tasks. So we've had the concept of tasks in the system for probably a year now, and then earlier this year we introduced this feature called additional forms. We didn't really like the wording additional forms. They've sort of been morphed into this thing now called back office tasks. So if you think about a back office task is something that's done by, payroll or finance or IT, usually a support function within your business. These can be rolled out in a conditional state. So when this happens, trigger this particular back office task. And the back office task goes to a role within the system to complete, and it's a form. So it might be, if we pick up on that security process from before, once the security or clearance forms have been submitted, then a back office task is created for somebody to then go through and conduct the security checks. And once the candidate has passed the security checks, they can complete that form and mark it as complete. Now, one of the other things that we've done with this new feature is previously when the back office tasks have been really designed around payroll, and so the person using the back office task has been able to see the full offer file, which includes a whole lot of personal and confidential information. Now what we've done with these new back office tasks is the task owners don't see the full offer file. All they see is all they see is the information relevant to that task they're completing. So this allows you to create IT provisioning type tasks or finance tasks, facilities, all of those other tasks that you might want to do to help get your candidate up and running can now be provisioned through HROnboard. In addition, there's a series of notifications that can be sent out. So the notifications can get quite complicated. So they could be done on the creation of a task, the completion of a task, or also when the candidate gets to various stages in the workflow. The other thing that can happen with these back office tasks is they can block the workflow. So what we mean by that is, and we're still working out all of the, I guess, use cases around blocking tasks, but conceptually what we've been thinking about here is if you want to have a task that is blocking the candidate, it may not be the best way to do it, but the easiest way to describe it is you're blocking the candidate from accepting their offer until they've completed a background check. So technically, you could create that sort of a scenario within the HROnboard workflow. Another task that would be blocking is, say you needed to, from an integration perspective, you didn't want the workflow to go to payroll to trigger an integration until, say, finance had confirmed all of the costing information. We've one customer that's doing this sort of a bit manually right now, but it would allow, in this scenario, we could block the workflow going to the process state until finance has completed making sure that all the right cost codes and so forth are attached to that offer file so that when the data flows into your payroll system, they're costed correctly. So these back office tasks and the forms and the submission of forms and the collections we see as being able to really enhance the provisioning and deprovisioning aspects of your workflow. So been talking about new hires, but these back office tasks could also work from an offboarding perspective and allow you to create some more dynamic and sort of parallel workflows around offboarding. Now, there's a few more little things that come with these. There is a new permission. We're going to talk a bit more about permissions later that allow you to see all tasks. So what we mean by that is you may want an HR user to be able to see all back office tasks that have been allocated to a candidate, but then if you're logged in as a finance person, you only see the finance tasks. So it allows you to have that oversight on where things are up from a status point of view. In addition, one of the big feature requests or questions that we often get is, oh, the start date's changed. How do we handle that? With the additional forms or these back office tasks, we've got a couple of customers that are testing out a form that says confirm start date. So if you work in an industry where the start date is very variable and you want to make sure that it is correct, we could create a back office task that says confirm start date, and that allows you to, once you know what the actual start date for the candidate is, confirm it within the system. The other thing that the back office tasks now do is if you adjust the start date, any due dates for both candidate tasks and back office tasks are now recalculated around that start date. So they're the main features that are in Clinkers. Now, one of the things, as Michelle said, We're moving to this 4-weekly release. Both the collections and back office tasks are actually getting a lot more love in the next release that's coming up as well. So we've been, I guess the theme over the last 6 to 9 months is wanting to add incrementally a whole lot of features that help improving the back office users, and you'll see more of that coming. And we're trying to actually build out so that you can really manage your whole workflow process from an onboarding perspective within HROnboard.